I never thought my girlfriend would test our love, but what happened next was unbelievable. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. As I stood in that dimly lit café, heart pounding, tears threatening to spill, I felt like the walls were closing in. Mia sat across from me, her expression unreadable, yet I could see the tremble in her fingers, the flickering light of uncertainty in her eyes. We had laughed just days before, embraced without a worry. But now, that laughter felt like a distant echo. "You have to understand," she said, her voice shaky, barely above a whisper. A knot twisted in my stomach. It felt like the calm before a storm, the heavy air thick with unspoken words. I remembered the day we met, a whirlwind of smiles, the sun glowing warmly as if the universe conspired for our love. I thought we were invincible, two hearts intertwined. But now, a shadow loomed over us. Secrets tangled in the air. I could sense it, something was coming. As she spoke, every syllable felt like a dagger. "There's something I need to tell you." My breath caught. My heart raced, a drum echoing in my ears. What could possibly be so earth-shattering? I felt the world around us fade away. Noise disappeared, replaced by the rapid beats of my heart. She dropped her gaze, and everything grew silent. I could hear my breath shallow, quivering. She paused, a deep inhale as if preparing for a leap into unknown depths. I edged forward, aching with dread. Was she leaving me? The thought sent icy fingers up my spine. What if this was it? My mind raced to all the late nights, shared dreams, and whispered promises. "Did you find someone else?" I stammered, not sure if I wanted to hear the answer. She shook her head, but a single tear escaped. The air between us crackled with tension. A stranger nearby glanced our way, probably sensing the shift in the atmosphere. I felt exposed, raw, as if I stood on the edge of a cliff, unsure of how far I would fall. Her gaze lifted to meet mine, desperation shimmering like stars in her eyes. "No, not that, it's something else. Something unbelievable." The word hung in the air, heavy and foreboding. My heart sank deeper. What could it be? My voice trembled, fear pooling in my stomach, then she took a deep breath, as if summoning courage from some hidden reservoir. I held my breath, waiting, praying for clarity. The café faded into the background. All that existed was us, the flickering candlelight casting shadows on our faces, revealing fragments of our fears. "What if I told you I've been chosen for a secret mission?" Her voice was barely a whisper, but those words crashed over me like a wave. I was anchored, drowning in confusion. Chosen? By who? I whispered, desperate for more, unable to comprehend the whirlwind of emotions taking over. The waiter lingered nearby, glancing at us with curiosity. I felt the heat rise in my cheeks. This was not how I expected our evening to unfold. Emerging from the chaos of my thoughts, another question surged forth, even more chilling. What kind of mission? What does it mean for us? As she opened her mouth to reply, the door swung open violently, a gust of cold air following in. The bell above jingled, drawing the attention of every patron. I turned to see the newcomer, a figure shadowed in mystery, and my heart dropped. The gloom settled deeper and the light from the street illuminated his face. There was a piercing familiarity to him. My stomach twisted as the realization hit. Who was he? What could this all mean for Mia, for us? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The air turned electric, crackling with the weight of unanswered questions. I turned back to Mia, hoping to find clarity in her eyes, but they were clouded with something deeper: fear, perhaps, or regret. The newcomer's presence felt like a jolt to my system, disorienting and almost surreal. My world, once vibrant and full of promise, now teetered on the edge of chaos. Mia shifted in her seat, breaking our gaze as the stranger walked further into the café. My heart raced. There was something painful about how the familiarity of his face scratched at the edges of my memory, tugging at every moment we had built together. "Who is he?" I managed to ask, my voice trembling over the painful silence. Mia inhaled sharply. "His name is Lucas. He's from my past." The words hung heavy, laden with implications. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach, twisting with jealousy and confusion. How could this be? "From your past?" I echoed, clinging to fragments of hope, but all I found was despair. Before she could continue, Lucas approached our table, his expression inscrutable. "Mia," he greeted, a hint of nostalgia in his voice. "It's been a long time." There was an unspoken tension that clung to the air around us, and I instinctively leaned closer to Mia, as if to shield her from whatever storm was brewing. "Lucas," she replied, her voice wavering. "I didn't expect you to show up here, not now." The weight of her words pulsed in the space between us, and I felt undeniably small, like a leaf caught in a gale. "What are you doing here?" I could scarcely contain my anger, the question spilling from my lips before I could think. The thrill of confrontation ignited my instincts, my desire to protect what felt so precarious. Lucas turned his attention to me, a soft smile forming at the corners of his mouth. "I came to see Mia," he said, his tone smooth but laced with something else. "An agenda, perhaps. I have news that might change everything." Mia clenched her hands, glancing between us, her expression mirroring my own confusion and apprehension. "What kind of news?" she asked, her voice steadying, though I could still detect the slight tremor. "It's about your mission," he replied, leaning closer as if he held the secrets to the universe in his hands. "They've found a way to accelerate the process," and his eyes darted to me, hesitation flickering across his features. "It involves both of us." I felt a heavy fog descend over my thoughts. Both of us? The impending dread twisted into a more urgent concern. "What are you talking about?" My words were sharp, anxiety thrumming through my veins. Mia's gaze softened as she turned to me. I need to explain, but the underlying fear in her voice hinted at something greater, a chasm opening between us that threatened to swallow our bond whole. "I can explain everything," Lucas interjected, his tone deceptively calm. "But it won't be easy to hear. What could be so terrible that it would involve you?" I questioned, my grip on the table tightening as if it could anchor me against the tide of turmoil swirling around us. "It's about the organization," he said finally, and the room seemed to freeze. "They're not just looking for Mia. They want to create a team, people who can be trusted, who can work alongside one another. They think you can help." The gravity of his statement hit me like a punch to the gut. My own life, my desires, my love for Mia were all tangled in this web of secrecy and intrigue. I had thought she was simply keeping something from me, yet here was Lucas, claiming there was a larger picture, a canvas filled with clandestine missions and hidden agendas. Mia turned to me, her eyes wide and pleading. "I never wanted to involve you in this. I swear. But I'm scared. It's bigger than us." My heart pounded, each beat echoing the chaos in my mind. "Bigger than us?" I hissed, incredulous. "You're asking me to trust you, to trust him. This isn't just about secrets anymore, it's about manipulation and choices I never signed up for." Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Lucas' jaw tighten. "You need to be ready for whatever comes next, both of you," he said, his voice lowering. "Because the organization won't stop until they get what they want." The café, once vibrant with the chatter and laughter of other patrons, felt oppressive now. The inescapable weight of personal turmoil, entangled with shadows of conspiracy and fragmented truths, loomed over us, like a storm ready to unleash its fury. Just then, a sudden commotion erupted at the entrance. The bell jingled violently again, drawing our attention. A woman burst into the café, breathless and wide-eyed, clutching a letter in her hand, urgency radiating from her every pore. "Mia!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the thick tension. "You have to see this now." I turned to Mia, who looked as startled as I felt. The moment hung suspended, the cliff of uncertainty looming before us. New challenges, new revelations, and a shattering truth lay just beyond the threshold, waiting to crash down like a wave. As the woman rushed towards us, my heart sank. Whatever was contained in that letter could change everything, propelling us further away from the shore of our once sheltered lives, and plunging us into the depths of an unfathomable abyss. Mia's eyes flickered with panic as the woman approached, her hurried breaths filling the space between us like a thick fog. I could see adrenaline coursing through Mia's body, the shift from confusion to alarm sending a shiver down my spine. I glanced at Lucas, who stood with an unreadable expression, his earlier confidence faltering in the wake of this sudden chaos. "Mia." The woman gasped again, clutching the letter to her chest. "It's urgent. You need to read this." Her urgency only amplified the tension in the air, and I felt the weight of this new intrusion blending with the unresolved conflicts at our table. "Who are you?" I demanded, stepping forward instinctively, feeling this strange possessiveness over Mia. "What is all this about?" She stammered, panic dancing in her eyes. "I'm Claire, a friend. And I've come from the agency. They've found something linked to your mission, both of you." I opened my mouth to retort, but Mia's hand shot out, gripping my wrist, silencing me. Her gaze bore into mine, a mixture of fear and resolve swirling within her depths. "What do you mean, Claire?" she asked, a quiet urgency simmering under her calm exterior. "The organization, it's bigger than you know. They found evidence of something that could expose everything. I thought you should see this before they find out you're involved." She thrust the letter into Mia's hands, her fingers trembling as Mia's gaze darted between Lucas and me, the weight of the note a tangible reminder of the dangers ahead. Mia unfolded the letter gingerly, her brow furrowed in concentration. As she read, the color drained from her face. There's something they want from us," she whispered, a pallor settling over her features. Lucas stepped closer, peering over Mia's shoulder. "What does it say?" His tone was grave, the casual air he had carried before now stripped away, leaving behind raw concern. Mia's voice quivered as she spoke. "It says they have contacts in various organizations. They're aware of us, of our plans to disrupt their operations. They're willing to barter information about you, Lucas, about me." "Barter?" I echoed incredulously, the very idea striking me like a punch. "What do they want in exchange?" "Our lives. Our loyalty." Claire's lips pressed into a thin line, and she exchanged a worried glance with Lucas, who remained quiet but alert. "No, it's more complicated. They want to test you, to evaluate your commitment to whatever it is Mia has been involved with," she said finally. "They have specific tasks in mind, missions that will determine if you can be trusted." The gravity of it washed over me, a heavy wave crashing against the shore of my sanity. "You're asking us to play their game?" I fought to keep my voice steady, though resentment twisted in my gut. "After everything that's happened, you want us to trust them?" Mia flinched, her hands trembling as she folded the letter tightly in her grip. "I have to protect you," she said softly, her gaze fierce yet tender. "If we don't get ahead of this, we might lose everyone we care about." Lucas interjected, his voice low. "She might be right. They could have a backdoor into our lives already. If you deny their demands, who knows what step they'll take next." I opened my mouth to protest, but the truth was lodged in my throat, a bitter consensus. The organization had woven itself into the very fabric of our lives, shadowing us with threats both real and impending. Accept their terms or risk everything. It felt like a no-win choice. Mia looked at me with desperation, her eyes shining with an emotion I couldn't quite parse. "I just want us to be safe," she pleaded. "All of us." Tension vibrated among us, slicing through the air like a knife. The fear of not knowing what lay ahead mixed with the frustration of choices already made. I turned to Lucas, who stood in conflicted silence, the lines of his face etching deeper with each word unsaid. "Fine," I finally said, exhaustion coloring my tone. "If this is what it takes to protect Mia, then we'll hear them out. But I don't want to lose any more of myself in this twisted game." Mia's face softened, a flicker of gratitude mingling with her dread. But just as a fragile sense of unity began to pulse between us, Claire spoke again, urgency creeping back into her voice. "Wait, there's more." A cold dread settled in my gut. "More?" I urged, half dreading what could possibly come next. "A deadline," Claire continued, her voice steady despite the chaos swirling around us. "You have just 3 days to either accept their terms, or they will act. If we don't comply, they're prepared to release information that could ruin everything. Your lives, your future, it's all at stake. 3 days." The weight of her words fell heavy, sharpening the fears lurking in my mind. My heart raced, an insistent drum echoing against the ticking clock of inevitability. Mia's breath caught, the color flushing back into her face as realization dawned. We can't just take this lightly." Her grip around the letter tightened until her knuckles turned white. Suddenly, an idea struck me. We needed allies, a way to fight back, but even as I considered the options, a profound uncertainty gripped me. I was walking a tightrope, each choice a potential step into an abyss. Just then, something rattled outside. A loud crash sent shivers through the café. Glass shattered, people screamed, and I felt my heart plummet. What was that? I yelled, adrenaline coursing through me. Then, before any of us could react, chaos exploded inside the café, sending patrons scrambling for the exits. I turned instinctively toward Mia, ready to shield her from whatever was coming, but the ground shifted beneath me, and it felt like the world was about to fracture. "Run!" I shouted, grabbing Mia by the wrist, but her eyes were locked on Lucas, who stood frozen in shock, as if suddenly realizing he was a pawn in a game far larger than any of us had anticipated. The walls of our sanctuary came tumbling down around us, and the choices before us had turned sinister. Whatever awaited us in those next 3 days threatened to change the course of our lives forever, shrouded in shadows of deception, and I felt my heart clenching at the cruelty of fate that had thrust us all together. As I pulled Mia toward the exit, a sudden image flashed through my mind, a moment where everything could shift, where love could either bind us or tear us apart. In the midst of chaos, all I could think was that I was terrified of losing her, terrified of what lay ahead, and yet, an undeniable hope flickered in the darkest corners of uncertainty. With my heart pounding and storm clouds gathering, we plunged into the unknown, where everything we treasured was in peril, and the truth would soon reveal its face in the lines of anguish and love we were about to navigate. The café trembled around us as the screams echoed, a ruthless reminder of how fragile our reality had become. I could barely think straight, my mind whirling as I dragged Mia towards the door. The scene outside was a chaotic mess, hurried bodies rushed past us, faces etched with panic just like ours. My grip tightened on Mia's hand, her pulse beating rapidly against my palm, a frightening testament to the dread swirling between us. "Where's Lucas?" she shouted over the din, looking back anxiously. I didn't want to let go of her, not for a second, but Lucas seemed rooted to the spot, the horror filling his eyes like an unquenchable fire. "Lucas!" I yelled, desperate for him to snap out of it. A slicing sound shattered the air, and then there was a crackling in the overhead speakers, chaotic static blaring before a voice broke through. "Attention, everyone! Stay calm. This is not a drill," the voice said, strained and haunting. "Please evacuate the building in an orderly fashion. Come on," I urged, pulling Mia along as I fought every instinct to run back for Lucas. But part of me feared what might happen if we split up. Above all else, I had to protect Mia, even if that meant abandoning my sense of brotherhood for the moment. Finally, Lucas found his legs, racing towards us, eyes wide with realization. "Incoming!" he shouted, and relief flooded me for a brief moment that as Lucas reached us. I caught a glimpse of something shimmering on the ground near the cafe entrance. A piece of paper, fluttering in the wind, caught my attention, but I dismissed it. We had to get out, to put distance between ourselves and whatever storm was blowing through our lives. Once outside, we dove into a chaotic street where sirens wailed and people scattered in all directions. The open-air atmosphere felt wrong, as if the world outside were a distorted reflection of normalcy. What just happened? I panted, scanning the horizon for any danger lurking in the crowd. Mia breathed heavily, still gripping my arm. The agency. They must be involved somehow. This can't be a coincidence. Her voice trembled, and the fear in her eyes made my heart ache. Lucas closed the gap, his face grave as he caught his breath. They could be trying to send a message, he warned, glancing around nervously. I nodded, my emotions banding together like scared children. We need a plan. We can't let them intimidate us. But before any coherent thoughts could take shape, we heard another voice slicing through the air, a voice full of authority that demanded attention. Out of the way. Make space. An officer charged past us, shouting orders. MIA's voice wavered, laced with urgency. We shouldn't stay here. We need to go somewhere safe. Somewhere they can't find us. The panic in her tone sent my mind spinning. I wanted to calm her down, to hold on to the last fragments of normal, but we were miles away from that now. Instead, we turned and fled down an alley, desperate to escape the chaos. As I ran, looking behind us, my attention flickered momentarily to the paper I had seen outside the cafe. My gut twisted, whispering that it was important. Wait! I shouted, pulling Mia and Lucas to a halt. We barely escaped the passing police car, blaring lights illuminating our faces. I dashed back just a few steps until I found a flyer, crumpled and muddied but intact. I unfolded it, nearly screaming out loud as I read the words printed in bold letters, "Join us. Discover the truth. You have been selected for a greater purpose. The revolution is now. P.S. We know your secret." My insides coiled tight, and I felt their glare through the words, a warning and an invitation. Feeling the weight of their malignant encouragement, I hurried back to Mia and Lucas. They stared at me, questions swirling in their gazes, their breaths catching in their throats. "Look at what I found," I gasped, struggling to keep the tremor out of my voice. I handed it to Mia, who unfolded it slowly as if it might shatter everything we feared. "What does it mean?" she asked, her brows knitting together in confusion. Lucas leaned closer, reading over her shoulder. "They're trying to recruit us. They want us to join their cause," he said, a note of incredulous disbelief coloring his words. "But this isn't right. They sound dangerous. And they know our secret," I muttered, my heart racing. "The organization must have eyes on us. They are manipulating us." MIA's brow furrowed deeper, the realization dawning. What if the reason they want to test us isn't just survival? What if they're trying to coerce us into a choice that'll lead us back into their clutches? An uneasy silence fell between us, tension thickening the air as the reality of the situation sank deeper. But even as I felt the shadows of fear creeping in, another sense of hope flickered beneath the surface. "I'm not ready to give in," I said firmly, albeit softly. "We'll find a way to turn this around. We can reach out to those we trust. There must be someone who can help." "Yes," Mia said, eyes lighting up as if I had sparked a realization. "If we reach out to the others who have felt the organization's wrath, we could gather forces. We don't have to face this alone." "In the meantime, we need to lay low," Lucas interjected, looking down grimly at the flyer. "Avoid any more attention. We can't allow them to catch wind of what we're planning." Just as I felt a small sense of unity forming, the shadows moved once more, whipping around us as reality clawed at our backs. A sudden crash came from further down the alley, astonishingly close, and our eyes all turned to the source in unison. "Run!" I yelled, instinctively pulling Mia forward again. Chaos bubbled back to the surface, consuming us in its grasp. As we sprinted away from the echoing crashes, I caught a glimpse of a figure standing near the alley mouth, a silhouette shrouded in darkness, watching us with an intensity that appeared impossible to ignore. The fleeting moment stretched on, a single shard of fear planted deep with the lingering question, was this our enemy or someone who could change our fates entirely? No matter what awaited us, I felt the darkness close in around us, unyielding. I cherished the flicker of hope still in my heart, willing it to become a flame that might guide us through the storm. But knowing that we were mere pawns in a larger game, I realized the real test of our hearts was yet to come. The pounding of our feet against the pavement faded into an ominous rhythm, a heartbeat echoing the chaos that surrounded us. Mia clutched my arm tighter as we raced through the narrow alleyways, her breath coming in sharp, panicked gasps that matched the urgency of our flight. Lucas stayed close behind, ever watchful, his instincts honed by circumstances far too dire for anyone else to comprehend. What if that was them? Mia shouted, her voice laced with fear as we dodged debris that littered the ground. Whoever it was, we can't stop now. Lucas replied, trying to maintain his composure. But in that moment, I could see the cracks forming in his bravado. Hadn't we all felt its suffocating weight of dread threatening to pull us under? Just ahead, the alley opened up into a wider street, where the remnants of last night's dinner crowd lingered in a frenzy, people ignoring one another's existence in a desperate struggle for safety. We weaved through them, a dark current amid a sea of lost souls, trying not to draw attention to our own mounting despair. Over there. I pointed toward an inconspicuous entrance, a small door that hadn't been noticed in the erstwhile rush of chaos. We can hide inside. The door swung open as we rushed toward it, revealing a dimly lit stairwell leading into darkness. The inside was musty, and the air weighed heavily on our chests. A flickering light bulb barely illuminated the narrow passage, making the shadows dance eerily against the walls. What if we're walking into a trap? Mia whispered, her eyes darting around as we descended. No trap would be this easy, Lucas said, trying to offer reassurance, but his voice wavered. I could sense his growing anxiety too. We had all witnessed what was unfolding above, chaos and confusion erupting like a whirlwind determined to consume us whole. At the bottom, we found ourselves in a room filled with old equipment and dusty furniture that hinted at abandonment. A television flickered in one corner, the screen showing emergency alerts in rapid succession. Lucas approached the TV, his brow furrowing as he leaned closer, scanning the updates that flashed ominously. The agency has made their move. They're tightening their grip. That's why they're after us. Why us? I pondered aloud, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. What makes us so special that they would send us this twisted invitation? We're just us. Mia shook her head, her face pale, but determination settled in her features. There's something they know. Something we haven't figured out yet. We need to dig deeper. Before I could respond, the door swung open suddenly, disrupting our fragile moment of solidarity. My heart lurched as I spun around, expecting the worst. A figure stood silhouetted in the doorway, hesitant yet somehow familiar, draped in a coat that had clearly seen better days. Please, let me in. A voice croaked, frantic and broken. It was a woman emaciated and trembling. I heard you talking about the organization. You need to listen to me. After a quick glance at Lucas and Mia, I stepped back, allowing the stranger to enter. Instinctively, I reached to secure the door, forcing it shut against possible outside threats. Who are you? I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady amidst the urgency of our situation. Names don't matter, she gasped, her chest heaving. But I know things they don't want you to know. You have to trust me, or you're all going to die. You. Trust you. Lucas' skepticism flared even in the face of our imminent peril. Why should we trust anything you're saying? Because I've been where you are, she replied, tears pooling in her eyes, giving her words an unexpected gravity. I was once like you, naive, unaware of the strings being pulled behind the scenes. But I escaped. You can too. Mia stepped lightly towards her, vulnerability seeping from every pore. What did you see? What do you know? Help us, the woman hesitated, seemingly caught between fear and a longing to reveal her knowledge. You're being watched. There are eyes everywhere, not just from the agency. Trust me when I say they know your deepest secrets, your weaknesses. They'll come for you soon. Do you have proof? I asked, skeptical, yet the truth of her assertion resonated in my bones. Proof? She stepped cautiously closer, almost in a trance-like state, and suddenly pulled something from her coat pocket. It was a small flash drive, seemingly innocuous, but its weight felt monumental as she placed it in my palm. This holds everything. Names. Locations. They've documented every move you've made since the day you drew their attention. Your secrets. Your lies. That I looked at Mia and Lucas, searching for a flicker of certainty, a spark of hope, but all I saw were the shrouding shadows of what could come. Why are you helping us? Mia pressed, searching the woman's eyes for trust, because sometimes, the most unexpected kindness shines brightest in the darkest times, she replied, her voice trembling but steady. The heaviness of her wisdom settled in the air around us. Just then, a series of sharp knocks rattled the door, pulling us all into a state of alarm. They're here. The woman squeaked, panic painting her features anew. That I shared a fleeting glance with Mia and Lucas before turning back toward the door, adrenaline surging through my veins. The weight of the flash drive pressed hard against my palm, a gateway to our hopes and fears. Hide! I roared, urging Mia and Lucas toward the back of the room as I focused on the door, bracing against it. With each knock, I felt the room grow colder, hearts racing faster. My mind spun as darkness blurred the lines of trust, the stranger's intentions now incomprehensible, our choices tightening like a noose around our necks. As the door began to give way, the impending clash ignited within me. We stood on the precipice of destiny, yet I found myself grappling with an unsettling reality. Was our love, our very existence, worth the unimaginable sacrifice that now lay before us? Just then, the door burst open, and as a chilling breeze swept through the room, I braced myself for what lay ahead, knowing our true test was only beginning. The door swung wide, and the darkness enveloping our sanctuary erupted into chaos. Shadows poured in, revealing silhouettes clad in black, their movements precise and calculated. Lucas barked orders, pushing Mia and the woman behind him, while I felt my heart hammer in a symphony of fear and fury. Move! He shouted, a primal instinct igniting within him as he lunged at the intruders. I had never seen Lucas so fierce. It was as if all the tension had awakened a hidden strength. For a moment, I felt a flicker of hope, a belief that perhaps we could fight back, but with one swift motion, the nearest figure grabbed Lucas, twisting his arm behind his back with a brutal efficiency that sent a jolt of dread through me. You're coming with us, the agent growled, his voice a chilling murmur that reverberated in the tiny room. Mia, stay back! I yelled, watching in disbelief as Lucas struggled against the grip that had him captive. The room felt like it was shrinking, each second stretching into an eternity as terror clawed at my throat. Let him go! Mia screamed, but her voice was drowned out by the chaos that ensued as the agent surged forward, seizing Lucas and pinning him against the dilapidated wall. Grab the drive! One of them barked, eyes burning with malevolence. I clutched it tighter, instinctively stepping back, my blood turning to ice. The woman's warning echoed in my mind. They would use our secrets against us, and this was no minor game. Why are you doing this? A tremor laced my voice as I raised the drive, my hands shaking. We haven't done anything to you, yet, the agent replied, a cruel smile flickering on his lips. His eyes narrowed as he gazed at me, dissecting me as if I were a puzzle he intended to solve. But we know you will. In that moment of horror, I felt a new wave of determination rise within me. This drive wasn't just a flash of hope, it was our lifeline. You'll never take it! I shouted defiantly, launching myself toward them, heart racing with a wired mix of desperation and fury. But I was too late. Another agent lunged toward me, striking me solidly to the ground. I hit the floor with a painful thud, stars exploding in my vision, and for a moment, I felt utterly powerless. I heard Lucas call out for me, the sound filled with raw desperation, but it was drowned by the harsh sound of bodies colliding and the crack of impending defeat. Mia. I gasped, my breath catching in my throat, a knife of fear cutting deeper. I managed to roll onto my back, the world spinning, but I could see her still standing at the edge, frozen in disbelief. Take her. I heard one of the agents bark, and in that instant, the world around us transformed. I tried to crawl toward Mia, to reach out, to protect her, but my body felt weighed down by a leaden hopelessness. Don't, I gasped, but the rest of my warning was swallowed by the force of chaos. With a speed that made my heart plummet, they surged toward Mia, their hands reaching out to snatch her. It felt like time slowed as I saw her eyes widen, horror and confusion battling for dominance on her face. I knew I would never forgive myself if I let this happen. Don't you touch her. I bellowed, somehow summoning the strength to push myself back up to my feet. But before I could make it, the ground beneath us shook, a violent tremor that made everything lurch. The television flickered erratically, lights sputtering as the agent stumbled momentarily, giving me just the opening I needed. Mia. Run. I shouted. I watched as she seized the moment, terror propelling her forward toward the door, but her escape was abruptly cut short by an agent latching onto her arm. My heart felt like it was cracking, splintering into fragments as she screamed for me. Mia. I lunged forward again, feeling the raw power of anger surge through me, a boiling tide of desperation. The moment froze in time as I reached for her, every fiber of my being willing her to stay safe, but fate had other plans. As we struggled against the agents, the door broke down completely, revealing the chaos of the outside world, the sirens, the shouting. The smell of smoke and fear, and just as swiftly as it began, a blinding light flooded the room, brighter than anything I had seen before, as a new force burst through the opening. Their masks gleamed, faces obscured. I couldn't tell if they were friends or foes, but for the first time, the agent's resolve faltered. Get down. One of the new figures shouted, raising a weapon, and for that instant, everything swirled into a cacophony of uncertainty. Run! I shrieked in panic at Mia again, feeling the pull of her pain as if it was tethered to the very core of me. With that final word, I felt a swell of hope, a flicker of light cutting through the dark. But just as quickly, it was extinguished by the shrill sound of gunfire erupting through the room, and I could only watch, frozen, as the world flipped upside down. A scream echoed in the air, but was it mine? Was it hers? Or was it a haunting reminder of everything I had fought for, drowning in a tide of uncertainty as the weight of sacrifice loomed above us all? In that moment, I understood the true test of our love wasn't just what we were willing to do to protect each other, it was whether our hearts could withstand the unspeakable. The dust settled slowly in the aftermath of chaos, thick and suffocating. I blinked through the haze, my heart racing against the sudden, deafening silence. My breath came shallow, stinging my lungs as I grappled with the aftermath of that deafening shot. Had someone fallen? Had a life been lost in that fleeting moment? I coughed, the gritty air clawing at my throat. Mia. The name escaped my lips, raw and desperate. The room was a tableau of broken bodies and fraying souls, a stark representation of our fight to survive. My eyes darted around, searching. Where was she? The figures in black had vanished into the shadows, swallowed whole by the uncertainty of their allegiance. I could hardly process what had just unfolded. Their command had unraveled, but in its wake lay a new kind of threat. Just as I began to collect my thoughts, I felt a sharp jolt. Fingers grasped my arm with urgency. I turned to find a young woman, her face hidden behind a mask but her eyes wide with panic. We have to move now. She urged, urgency lacing her voice. The instinct to fight or flee wrestled fiercely within me. No, I can't, Mia. I tore myself from her grip, desperately scanning the wreckage for my girlfriend. I have to find her, please, you don't understand. If they come back, we won't survive a second time. We need to leave. Her voice was almost frantic, a tether pulling me from my anxious descent. And then, as if conjured by my frantic wish, I saw Hera, flash of raven hair, a silhouette against the light that erupted from outside. She was stumbling toward me, her expression a mixture of fear and resolve. Relief washed over me like an ocean wave, compelling and wild. Mia! I called, my legs propelling me forward before I even registered the movement. Hope surged in my veins, pushing out the shadows that consumed me moments before. But as I reached for her, the reality of the situation crashed back down. A bruise marred her arm where an agent had gripped her, and her breath came in frantic gasps. "You're okay," I whispered, although doubt curled in my gut, dark and visceral. "We're okay," but her eyes flickered away, scanning the perimeter, searching for threats, for answers that I feared we might not find. "What happened? Are they all gone?" She murmured, vulnerable and small in an immense, chaotic world. Before I could answer, the young woman who had tried to drag me away stepped closer, urgency oozing from her silhouette. "We need to go. Now." I could see the fear in Mia's eyes morphing into determination. She nodded, her unbreakable spirit flickering like a candle fighting back the darkness. "Let's get out of here." With one final glance back at the unfolding scene, we sprinted out, hearts pounding in synchronicity. The air outside tasted different, more electric, charged with the aftermath of our narrow escape. Sirens wailed in the distance, a mournful serenade of frenzy that threatened to engulf us once more. "We need to get to safety," the masked woman urged, urgency sculpting her features. "You're in a lot of danger. They'll be looking for you." I halted, uncertainty clouding my judgment. "Who are you?" I asked, the questions rising like bile in my throat. "Are you with them?" She ripped off her mask, revealing a youthful face hardened by despair and shadowed experience. "My name is Clara. I know what they want, and it's not just you two, it's the drive. You have to understand this is bigger than us." Her voice trembled slightly, revealing the fraying edges of her own fear. Mia and I exchanged glances, silently weighing the gravity of the situation. "What do you mean?" I demanded, desperate for clarity amid the chaos. "Those agents, they're after information, something that could change everything. We need to find a safe place, away from prying eyes. There's more at stake than you realize." Clara's eyes flickered toward an alley, shadowed and inviting. Mia squeezed my hand, grounding me as panic threatened to whirl anew. If there was even a slight chance that Clara was telling the truth, that our lives were intertwined with something much larger than our immediate concerns, we had to heed her. "Warning, let's go," I finally said, my voice trembling but resolute. We slipped into the damp embrace of the alleyway, shadows cradling us protectively. But just as we left the faint glow of the streetlights behind, the hum of quiet murmurs snaked toward us like a noose tightening around our necks. "Don't stop," Clara urged, pushing us along with a newfound urgency. "Keep moving." I glanced back and froze. A figure loomed in the darkness, illuminated by the flickering streetlight as they emerged from the gloom, their eyes gleaming with intent. Another agent. This one was different, taller, exuding a chilling sort of confidence that made my heart race anew. Just when I thought we might evade the moment, we locked eyes. Time seemed to freeze, creeping forward like a sluggish shadow. Recognition swept through me like a violent torrent, filling me with dread. He stepped closer, a grin crawling across his face. "I have been looking for you three," he said in a low voice thick with threat. "And it seems my search has finally paid off." Mia's grip tightened on my hand, panic flooding her features as the revelation struck a chord deep within me. They weren't just after the drive, they were after us, and I feared we had underestimated the peril we now faced. In that heart-stopping moment, I could feel fate preparing to deal its next blow, and I wasn't sure if we would survive it. The raw sincerity of our love now felt like a target painted on our backs, and I was left wondering if our hearts could endure what it meant to truly fight for one another. The air was taut with unspoken tension, and I could feel the weight of the agent's gaze boring into us, an invisible noose tightening with every heartbeat. My own pulse thudded violently in my ears, drowning out the chaotic world around me. "What do we do?" I whispered to Mia, panic clawing at my throat. "Stay calm," she replied, her voice steady, though her eyes betrayed her fear. There was an unwavering strength in her posture, but the uncertainty loomed high over us like thunderclouds ready to unleash their fury. We had fled into the shadows, yet here we were, caught in the spotlight of danger once more. "Why don't you come a little closer?" The agent taunted, stepping forward, his movements lean and predatory. I promise I don't bite unless you give me a reason to move. Clara hissed, urgency spiking in her voice as she gestured toward the other end of the alley. Without thinking, I tightened my grip on MIA's hand and began to run, heart hammering furiously. But before we could make even a few steps, the agent lunged, powerful and swift that I heard a strangled gasp escape MIA's lips as she was jerked back, his hand around her elbow, and for a split second, the world crumbled. My heart plunged, the horror of being apart from her wrapping itself around me like a vice. No. Let her go. I screamed, turning back to face him, rage igniting the fear that had now settled deep within me. Ah, the knight in shining armor, he said, his voice dripping with mockery. But it seems you're outmatched. Maybe I should just take one of you. What do you think? His eyes danced with delight, as if toying with our despair was a sport he relished. As he began to lean into MIA's space, I lunged forward, adrenaline propelling me. Face me. My voice erupted in a raw surge of defiance. I wasn't ready to lose her, not now, not ever. A sudden roar of noise erupted from the street tires screeching, a cacophony of shouts intermingling with the blaring of sirens. For a moment, the agent's attention faltered, glancing toward the chaos outside the alley, a split second that held a glimmer of hope for us. Now. Clara shouted, urgency propelling her body into action, and without a second thought, I wrenched Mia from his grasp. The agent growled low in frustration, his eyes narrowing as he lunged again, but the momentary distraction gave us a chance that we tore down the alley, the adrenaline coursing through my veins like wildfire. I could barely process the shifting figures in the distance or the distant silhouettes of law enforcement under the flickering neon lights. They might have been our salvation, but it felt like we were still playing a dangerous game of hide and seek. Left. Clara yelled, guiding us toward a narrow passageway hidden by a stack of crates. My heart raced as we ducked and squeezed through, the rough wood scraping against my skin. The darkness felt thicker here, wildly clutching at us as we stumbled and fell. Once on the other side, the world exploded in color and light. We stood in a small crowd, a mix of revelers oblivious to our plight, but we were lost in the chaos, my heart still racing as fear clawed its way up my throat. Breathless, our eyes frantically searched for any sign of retreat as adrenaline coursed through us. What now? I panted, scanning the faces around us. We need to disappear, Clara replied, her expression grave. We can't stay here. There are safe houses, but we have to move. Mia nodded, her breath still ragged. Where? Follow me, Clara urged, glancing over her shoulder. And stay close. We hurried down the back streets, the laughter and music of the main road fading as we plunged deeper into quiet darkness. Hope flickered like a dying ember, overshadowed by the uncertainty of our safety. Yet, as we crossed into the next alley, I caught sight of familiarity. It was our neighborhood, a place we had walked countless times, filled with memories of love and laughter, but now it felt alien, haunted by shadows that threatened to devour us whole. My heart sunk, the urgency of saving Mia overshadowed by the ever-present fear of what had become of our lives. The thought that the threat could follow us into the very places where we had once felt secure made my heart ache with despair. Here, Clara said breathlessly, pulling us into a small doorway half concealed by vines and peeling paint. As we stepped inside, I was hit by a wave of nostalgia mixed with an overwhelming sense of dread. The atmosphere felt charged, tinged with the echoes of a simpler time. This was our sanctuary, a refuge we never thought we'd need. But just as we settled against the damp wall, my phone vibrated violently in my pocket, an unexpected intrusion into our tense moment. My chest tightened as I recognized the number. Moments of panic surged. Should I answer it? I asked, uncertain. Whoever it is, it could be them, Clara warned, her eyes flashing with alarm. You can't risk it. Mia reached for my hand, grounding me against the tempest of rising fear. What if it's someone who can help us? She challenged softly, glancing pointedly at Clara. With shaking hands, I pulled my phone out. The screen lit up with a message that sent a chill down my spine. We know where you are. Come out now, or the consequences will be severe. The implication hung heavy in the air, suffocating in its intensity. The edges of my world threatened to splinter apart as I looked at Mia with a weight of realization dawning over us. We were caught in a web far more intricate than mere escape. We were pawns in a game we didn't even fully understand. As I looked back at Clara, the shadows congealing around her face, it hit me like a flash of understanding the danger was escalating, and this was just the beginning of a much darker storm. The fight for our lives, for our love, had only begun, and I dreaded to think of what else lay in store for us as we plunged into the unknown abyss. Stay close, I murmured to Mia, still wrestling with the tumult of emotions building within me. Too many layers of fear and longing coiling like serpents in my heart. The night was far from over, and I was left wondering if this test of love would forge us into something stronger or tear us asunder. The adrenaline had yet to fade, but the oppressive silence in our makeshift refuge filled the air with tension thicker than fog. The remnants of laughter from the world outside felt like a cruel reminder of a life we no longer recognized. I leaned against the wall, my breath shaky, the chill of the concrete seeping through my clothes, as I tried to wrap my head around the harrowing message on my phone. Who sent that? Mia whispered, her eyes wide with fear, yet still holding that familiar spark of determination that drew me to her in the first place. It was a flicker of hope I latched onto, but the dark clouds overhead remained daunting. I don't know, I stammered, anxiety clawing at my throat, but we can't stay here. We need to move. Clara straightened, rubbing her temples as if trying to dispel the weight of the world pressing down on her. We need to regroup. There's an old friend of mine who might still have a safe house nearby. We can try there, she suggested, her voice steadier now, but I could see the remnants of fear still reflected in her eyes. Each alternative seemed like just a thin thread of safety, yet we had no other option. Taking one last breath to center myself, I pulled Mia close. Are you ready? I asked, searching her eyes for any sign of reservations. I will be, she replied, her tone unwavering as she gripped my hand tightly. We're in this together, remember. As we slipped into the shadows of the doorway, the reminder of our partnership filled me with a fragile sense of courage. Clara led us down the narrow alley, her eyes scanning the street as we maneuvered in silence, weary of every sound that echoed against the buildings. The darkness enveloped us like an ominous cloak, but it also shielded us from prying eyes. After what felt like an eternity of ducking and weaving through streets I once called home, we reached an unmarked door nestled between fading murals. Clara knocked softly, a rhythm that seemed almost desperate, but nothing stirred within the yawning silence of that space. What if no one's home? I wondered aloud, my heart pounding in my chest. Maya should be here, Clara insisted, glancing anxiously over her shoulder. She promised to stay put until the heat died down. Just wait, Mia pressed against my side, her closeness a balm against the uncertainty. I could sense her tension fraying at the edges, the fear we had been running from tightened its grip in our silence. But something unexpected broke through the stillness, a faint scuffling behind the door, followed by a hesitant voice. Who is it? Maya called out, her voice muffled but clear. It's Clara. Open up. The door creaked open, revealing Maya, leaning cautiously, eyes flickering between us and the dark street behind. Her gaze settled on Mia, and for a brief moment, a wave of relief washed over her. Thank God you're okay. Come in, hurry. Once inside, an air of familiarity wrapped around us. The small apartment, albeit cluttered, felt like a safe embrace. Old photographs adorned the walls, snapshots of joyful moments that felt achingly distant in our current turmoil. An old college friend rushed to pull us into an embrace, her warmth grounding us momentarily. Tell me everything, she urged, stepping back to study our faces, worn with fear and exhaustion that we need to hide. Clara began, her voice low but urgent. There are people looking for us. We got a message threatening us if we didn't come out. I don't know how they found us. Maya's expression shifted, furrowing with understanding but deepening into worry. What do you mean? Why would anyone? Before Clara could respond, a sudden crash echoed from the street, a sound that sent ice running down my spine. Awful clarity dawned on me. Our safe haven was becoming another trap if we didn't act fast. Out of the back! I shouted, grabbing Mia's hand and pulling her toward the small, narrow hall leading deeper into the apartment. Now! She didn't hesitate, and neither did Clara. The three of us moved with urgency, adrenaline surging, the sound of shuffling footsteps drawing uncomfortably close as we navigated through the darkness. We reached a small window, barely large enough for one of us to squeeze through. Clara tried first, the panic igniting the fire inside her. Go! I'll hold them off. Clara, no! I cried, sensing the impending heartache that loomed with those words. You can't do this, but her resolve was unwavering. Just trust me. Get out and stay together. Mia grasped my arm, anchoring me before I could lunge forward, a disagreement brewing in her eyes. We can't leave her. Her voice quivered with emotion. No. We don't have time. I pressed, twisting her toward the window, and for a moment our gazes locked, a silent exchange of fear and love painting our path forward. With a final push, I hoisted Mia through the window. Just as I turned to Clara, her eyes caught mine, fierce and unyielding. You can hold on to each other, but you can't hold on to all of us. Go! In that agonizing moment, I reluctantly climbed out after Mia, the last image of Clara burned into my mind. The cry of footsteps surged closer, but her determination would remain a beacon in my heart as I blinked against the brightness outside. Come this way. Mia urged, guiding us down the alley while the world felt blurred and lost in its chaos. But as the panic pulsed through my veins, the reality of our fractured family overwhelmed me. And then, as if the universe had collided against our desires, I heard a shattering crack in the distance, sharp and ominous. My gut twisted, and I turned back helplessly toward the apartment, knowing that Clara's fate perhaps rested in the hands of unknown forces. With every ounce of my being, I wanted to scream out for her, to run back, but fear rooted me in place. The shadows whispered all around, entwining with my deepest anxieties as we plunged into the night. Where do we go now? Mia's voice trembled beside me as I gripped her hand tighter, both of us teetering on the edge of our dwindling hope. Anywhere but here, I murmured back, desperation rising with each passing moment. But with each footstep we took away from what we had lost, I couldn't help but feel a tour home was in ruins, and so too, perhaps, was the very essence of us. But it was then held in the stillness of that uncertainty that a single bright light appeared up ahead, cutting through the overwhelming darkness so fiercely that, for just a moment, I dared to whisper a wish that there was still hope waiting for us at the end of this treacherous path. The night had swallowed us, but as we stepped into the illuminated street, the harsh glow of the streetlights contrasted our previous darkness. My heart hammered with the pulse of urgency, desperation clawing at me as I looked into Mia's eyes, searching for a spark of certainty amidst the chaos invading our lives. Where to now? Mia asked, her voice quivering yet hopeful. We need to find a place to regroup and plan our next move, I replied, my mind racing, piecing together the fragments of our shattered reality. The night felt alive, whispers and shadows lurking behind every corner. Let's head to the park. It's quiet and well, it's familiar. We navigated through the streets, the world around us a blur of confusion and anxiety. The echoes of our hurried footsteps accompanied the distant sounds of chaos still plaguing the city. A siren here, a muffled shout there, the aftermath of the power struggle unfolding in the shadows. My heart ached for Clara. Leaving her felt like leaving a part of myself behind. But what choice did we have? I forced myself to concentrate on Mia, to ground myself in the present. Well, figure this out, I said, squeezing her hand tighter. But deep down, I feared that each effort to calm her was as hollow as the serenity we once had. As we reached the park, a sense of quiet enveloped us, a refuge wrapped in the blanket of an early dawn. The silhouettes of trees swayed gently, offering their whispers, an unspoken reminder that amidst all turmoil, life continued. We found a bench that felt both foreign and familiar, a place rich with memories of laughter and stolen kisses. Mia, I began, but the weight of the night hung heavy on my tongue. I don't know how I'm going to protect you or how we can escape this nightmare we've been thrust into. She turned to me, her gaze steady yet soft. No matter what happens, we stick together. That's what we promised. I wanted to believe we could withstand the overwhelming tide, that our connection could shield us from the storm. But they know our weaknesses. They know our secrets, I said, the reality creeping in like ice flowing through my veins. What will they do to us next? Silence wrapped around us, like a blanket of darkness suffocating our souls. In that fleeting moment, I wished for the power to turn back time, to return to those carefree days when love seemed limitless, a cocoon sealing us from the outside world. Then, a single thought pierced through the murky shadows. Wait, I said, almost forgetting to breathe. The drives they wanted. We have it, right? Yes, Mia replied slowly, confusion etched on her face. But what does that matter now? They want information. If we can expose them, maybe we can turn the tables. We could find a way to fight back, I proposed, a flicker of hope igniting in my chest. But how? She murmured, uncertainty hanging in the air. We'll need allies, someone on the inside who can help. Suddenly, a figure stepped out from the darkness. Our hearts raced, and Mia instinctively gripped my arm, fear washing over us. But as the figure stepped into the light, I recognized her instantly. It was Maya, her face illuminated under the glow of the moon's gentle light. Thank God I found you, she breathed, relief washing over her features, but it was soon replaced by urgency. They're gathering, looking for you. You have to move. Why didn't you come with us? Mia's voice cracked, the weight of our situation pressing heavily against her. I had to find safety, but I didn't feel right leaving you two unprotected, Maya explained, glancing warily over her shoulder. I'm trying to help you. I know people, those who resist the organization. They can help you. But how can we trust you? I asked, doubt clawing within me again like a hungry beast. You have to, she implored, her eyes earnest, reflecting the flickering light of hope that had briefly settled earlier. I promise you I will help. But we have to be quick. We have limited time before they realize I'm gone too. Lead the way, I said, turning my gaze to Mia, whose face held a mix of uncertainty and steely determination. As we hurried through the twisting paths of the park, the shadows began to close in on us again, laced with the familiar scent of fear and despair. My mind raced with questions. What if this was all a trap? What if Maya had orchestrated this deceit from the beginning? Yet deep down, the flicker of trust we had built felt shrouded with something pure, an ember of hope flickering defiantly amid the darkness that I and the distance. A low hum grew louder, and I felt dread curling in my gut like a dormant serpent. Had they followed us? Suddenly, I spotted a motorcycle leaning against a tree, the chrome glistening under the streetlight like a promise of speed and freedom. This way! I shouted, pulling Mia along with me toward it. What are you planning? Maya asked, urgency speeding her movements. Do you know how to drive? I asked, emerging from my haze as adrenaline surged once more. Yes, but no time. We need to move, I said, pushing her toward the motorcycle. Get on. Without hesitating, Maya swung her leg over the seat, the determination in her eyes reflecting our shared will to survive. I motioned for Mia to climb on behind her. Hold on tight. I urged as I clambered on behind, my heart pounding wildly with the prospect of escape. Then, engine roaring to life beneath us, I turned to face the street bathed in light, the warmth of possibility blossoming in my chest. As we sped off into the night, fear transformed into something sweeter, a promise of rebellion, a determination to unfurl our hidden truths and shatter the silence of the darkness that sought to own us. Our lives intertwined, moving forward despite the impending storm, but then, just as we turned the corner, just as hope swelled against despair, a blinding light flooded our path, and the screech of tires screamed into the night. It only took a second, a mere heartbeat, for realization to strike with cruel clarity as the headlights erupted behind us, marking the end of our fleeting freedom. And I understood then, that while we fought against the tides, fate had drawn its arrows, and perhaps our battle had only just begun. As we sped away into the unknown, with uncertainty clinging to every part of us, I looked at Mia, our eyes meeting in that flickering moment of truth. "No matter what happens, I will always choose you," I promised, my heart echoing our shared resolve, bound together as one. But deep down, I wondered, would love carry us through the storm, or would we find ourselves in the darkest depths, lost to the night? The true test of our hearts lay ahead, waiting to unravel the final thread of our entwined destinies. In that moment, I let hope guide me, whispering that even in the face of fear, love stood unyielding, our greatest weapon against the encroaching darkness.